Commissioner Mareki has requested an excuse. Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Commissioner Colleen,
Here.
Chair Scott,
Present.
you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item, please.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none at this time.
C, approve the June 25th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll move their approval, Madam Chair.
Support.
Been moved by Commissioner Colleen, supported by Commissioner McCormick, Baker McCormick. Next item.
We need a vote.
I'm sorry.
We need a vote.
Oh, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. Thank you.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Next item.
Item 1, under new business, revision of resolution number 2023-827, an intergovernmental agreement with the Wayne County Regional Educational Service Agency.
Okay, just before we take that, we will take items 1 and 2 together, 3 through 16 together, and 7 alone. 17, when I say 7, then. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, please. Next item.
Item 2, revision of resolution number 2024-146, a sole source professional services contract with the 1-year option to renew with Medical Debt Resolution, Inc.
Okay, is there someone to speak on 1 and 2?
This is Kamal Keperu, Finance Director. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Kamal.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sorry, but my internet is acting up, so I'm just calling in. I'm here to speak for 2, but I think 1 I can handle. But number 2, the only thing we're doing there is just changing the fund and business unit number. Remember when the commission approved the post ARPA dollars?
Yes.
Once that was approved, we created a whole new structure of business units and fund, but this contract has started before we set that structure. So this item here is just really catching up with putting the proper account numbers to the contract.
Okay, the contract is on 1. Okay.
Yep, and it looked like the same thing too for number 1.
Mhm.
That Wayne Risa contract has started before we set that structure up for the post ARPA dollars. So if you look at the that bottom sentence, the last 2 sentences for number 1, you see 499-35637. That's where we made sure that all post ARPA activities or contracts that's related to the post ARPA, we got in that one fund so we can keep of it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That is it.
All right. Would you guys
Yes,
have
ma'am.
something to add to that?
We do not.
You do not. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Caparu.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Commissioner, just a moment before you leave, in
Thank you.
case
Sorry.
Commissioner Anderson has a question.
Kamal would probably be the one, but
Okay.
I'll leave it up to them. I guess what I'm wondering is, so this is post ARPA dollars, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Kamal? Okay.
Yeah,
So is this
can you hear me?
unused ARPA dollars that were moved over into that separate fund?
Yes. Remember, I think towards the end of the year, or the beginning of this year, it was at 178 million. I forgot the exact number. Remember what the commission approved earlier?
And this is part of that?
Oh, yes, this is part of it.
Okay.
So it's like these contracts just started before we had created these new business units.
Okay, so this doesn't take any additional money from what was left, correct?
No, correct. It does not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Colleen?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think my question might also apply to the 3 through 16 that you noted. And because just listening to fiscal here is the roughly 173 million in ARPA dollars that the commission approved to go into the set. And now it sounds like we're creating new business units to track that. And I understand that for items 3 through 16, where they talk about the new prevention and diversion account.
Mhm.
But these first couple, if it's the same $173 million, they're going into a couple of other new accounts. So what I'm wondering is, for the commission and our fiscal staff, to keep track of this, is there a bigger something from administration that says these are the new accounts that they were created for that 173 million? This is what's going like in 1 and 2 to some other account, and then 3 through 16 is like this omnibus business unit that was set up. So what do we get from administration so that commission fiscal knows where all of that 173 million is going into what business unit accounts, new ones? I don't think all of these are new business units, but just to keep track of that money, where is it all going in these separate accounts? Is that something we can get from administration, I guess is the question. And I want to hear from commission fiscal as well on that, so I don't care who.
Kamal, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you want to answer that one?
Yes, when if you look at number 1, that last with the third sentence, it said 499. 499 is the fund that was created for the post ARPA dollars that's countywide. So if the fiscal staff does not have access to that, well, I'm quite sure they do. Something that we definitely can provide, all the business units that's within that fund. That wouldn't be an issue, but Fund 499 is for all post ARPA dollars.
Yeah, and I do want to thank you, and I do want to hear from commission fiscal on that too. Are we able to track through all these accounts, including the new business unit that was set up, where all of this 173 million is going?
Someone answer that?
Through the chair, Terrence Adams, Chief Fiscal Advisor for the Wayne County Commission. Just to clarify, only items 1 and 2 are related to post-ARPA dollars. Items 3 through 16 is not related to the post-ARPA dollars. They're just changing to a new business unit because JYS is now a new department from HHVS when these various contracts originally started. But in regards to the post-ARPA dollars for 1 and 2, we can track where the funding is going, and we can request documentation from the administration. A lot of the funding has not been allocated out still. And one of the reasons why it was advised by auditors to put that money into a totally separate fund so it can be totally tracked from having it from one department to other department to other departments. So to answer your question, we will be able to track those funds.
Yeah, because thank you. And that's what I was concerned about. It's a big chunk of cash. And are we going to be able to follow and almost like on a quarterly basis, here's everything we've spent out of that 173. Here's how much has yet to be allocated, so that us in our role in oversight can better track what has been spent, what hasn't been spent. So I don't know where we'll get that. I don't know if Commission Fiscal can work with administration, but I think with the dollars that are out there, like a quarterly update, these are the accounts it's going into. This is how much has been allocated by the commission. And this is still how much yet to be allocated. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Terrence, would you be able to track that?
Through the chair, yes, ma'am, especially with the new budget coming up, there's going to be a separate fund allocated just for that, it should be in the new budget because this was created this budget year. So these funds have to roll over to next year or because there's activity still going on. So yes, we will be able to track that.
Very good. Thank you so much. Commissioner McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For RISA, do we have a report on where we stand as far as the educational mental services that they're, mental health services that they're providing. Have we received any updated, reports since they started the project at all?
Good afternoon, Melissa Fernandez, Director of Juvenile Youth Services. We have not, but we will submit one for the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you,
That'll be-
Melissa.
that'll be good because I was just, yeah. Thank you. That's what I needed.
All right, thanks. Okay. We'll have
Madam Chair,
any more on 1 and 2?
can I make a motion?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'll move approval of items 1 and 2.
Okay, is there support for items 1 and 2? Okay, moved by Commissioner Colleen, supported by Commissioner Anderson. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen.
Aye.
Chair Scott,
Yes,
motion
motion
carried.
carried. Thank you. Next item, please. Thank you so much. I guess
Item
you'll be
3.
here for the,
Revision of resolution number 2023-942, amendment 3 to a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to renew with Black Family Development.
want to speak on that, please?
Good afternoon, Melissa Fernandez, Director of Juvenile Youth Services. Number 3 is a revision to the business unit. So we're revising the business unit to be in line with our new department and our new divisions. The original contracts were under HHVS, so we're moving those out to JYS.
Okay. You have any questions on Melissa?
Yes.
Yeah, That's why we're gonna do 3 to 16 together, so we can ask any of these questions.
Okay. And I just had a question in reference to standards of practice. Do we have what I noticed is like some of the CMOs function differently than others. Have we ever had like, these are the standards and all of us should be kind of in line with, I'm just wondering.
Melissa Fernandez, Director of Juvenile Youth Services. We do, and I'd be happy to share those. We are actually working on amending some of our contracts in line with our juvenile justice reform and how we will expect the standards to be similar moving forward, of course, with the option to provide ancillary services and other services, but I will be happy to share that with you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna do 3 through 9 together, yeah,
Include 11 through 16, I guess.
and then 11 through 16,
Back to 10.
but we'll come back to 10. Okay. All the rest of them can be. Okay. Is there support?
I'll support that, Madam Chair. It just
Okay.
makes all the sense in the world to put all of this in one
Mhm. All right. Thank you.
account. Thank you.
Monique, do you have any questions? No. Okay,
Are we doing 11 through 16 also, or just 3 through 9?
right now it's 3 through 9.
Okay. Need a vote?
Can we add that to it?
we could.
Okay, we can, I understand. Okay. Okay.
Through 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I support the amendment, Madam Chair.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Anderson, supported by Commissioner Colleen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposes? Hearing none, motion carried. Next item.
Moving to item 10.
Mhm.
Requesting commission approval of 2 grant awards with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration Health Center Program to operate its federally qualified health center known as Wayne County Healthy Communities.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Sammy Shalabi, Deputy Division Director, Clinical Care Services. We are requesting to certify an annual grant from HRSA for our FQHC, Federally Qualified Health Center. We have two centers, one in Hamtramck and one in Wayne. The total amount is 2,250,763, and a small amount, 31,224, coming from a quality project for a grand total of 2,250,763. The clinic supports behavioral health, primary care, dental services.
Okay. Are there any questions? Commissioner Khalil?
Thank you, Madam Chair. FQHCs,
Mhm.
if you could briefly go over that. I've been under the impression that at some point, the way FQHCs are set up by the feds, that county support for those FQHCs doesn't go on forever. That at some point, the FQHC needs to be walking on their own. We can support it until a patient base is built so that they can be self-sustaining. Am I inaccurate in that?
This is Mal
Hello?
Keparu. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Kamal, go
Oh,
ahead.
Well, I thought Dr. Chef, was she there? I can add a point to that. I'll just speak and then Dr. Chef, whoever can add on. Commissioner, what you stated will be accurate. What happened years ago when we did a study, typically FQHCs, you're right, eventually they should become self-sufficient, but that's based on their location. Through our research, and I say our research, myself and I want to say our grants director for the department, maybe about 5 years ago, we had training from the FQHC. And what we found out is that where our FQHC is located, which is in Hamtramck, there's a different population that we're dealing with. So typically, a FQHC has 70% third-party billing or collection for revenue, and the grant is 30%. Because of our location, ours is flipped. We're 70% grant dependent and 30% collect revenue. Now, once we noticed that, then of course strategies began to be put in place. But to your point, whether ours becomes independent without a grant, I'm not sure. But again, we got new leadership of the FQHC, so the new leadership may be able to speak to that. But I wanted to give you context because when we found that out, that was shocking to us because before, that's the pressure, to be candidly, that's the pressure I was getting. When is it going to, as the finance director, when will it become self-sufficient? When will it become self-sufficient? And I couldn't figure it out till we, talked to different consultants and really looked at the demographics on where we were located. So that's
Okay.
context. So.
May I, Madam Chair?
Yeah. Commissioner Khalil?
Thank you, Mr. Caparu.
Thank you, Kaparu.
And I just want to follow up on that, sir. So the feds have said to us, based on your patient mix, client mix, whatever you want to call it, in Hamtramck, that the rules that the feds have for FQHCs, there's a different set of standards for a community like Hamtramck, and the feds have said, sure, fine, you don't have to, based on whatever criteria they have, you don't have to be self-sufficient, at least not right now. Is that it? The feds have signed off on this and said, given the demographics or whatever for Hamtramck, a different set of rules apply here for the FQHCs?
I can't say the feds signed off on it. I only can say that they recognize that that's the case with our grant because of the population that we serve in Hamtramck.
Right.
So it hasn't been an issue to this point because we keep, getting the grant renewal.
So they're renewing the grant
Yes,
based on whatever criteria. So the feds haven't blinked on this.
correct.
If I'm
And also we had not a review. It was, I forgot the name of the review. Maybe about 2 years ago, the feds did come and do, I want to say a quality review. I'm not sure the proper term, but they did come and do a review. So with some adjustments we needed to make to our contractor relationship, but other than that, there wasn't any issues related to this point.
And, you know, given the county we're in and the numbers that we have here, the more primary care, the better. Particularly in some areas of the county where there's next to nothing for primary care physicians. So, but I just wanted to understand this a little bit more. How long I'm going to risk it and say it's been about 6 years since we created these FQHCs?
I believe it was 2012.
Yeah, it was a
I
little
always tell
longer. Yep.
people, you get to a certain age and you go, yeah, that was more than a year ago, but it was less than 25 years ago,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So we've had them for about 10 years.
Mhm.
And the feds have supported us with grants based on our numbers since then, and they're not,
Can I just chime in?
they're not saying anything to us like, get this fixed for next year. We're not gonna.
Yeah, Avni Sheth, Division Director for Clinical Care Services and Chief Medical Officer at HHVS. Just to add to what Kamau and Sammy provided information on. So, you know, just stepping back, you know, Federally Qualified Health Center, they're there specifically to serve underserved, low-income populations and be able to see anyone regardless of ability to pay. And so they are, there's a commitment at the federal level under HRSA to support these health centers throughout our country, because we know that no matter how, with Medicaid expansion, this significantly has gotten better, but there will be always a segment of our society across the country that will not be covered either through an employer or through Medicaid or through Medicare. And so these health centers are specifically set up to serve that population. So with that in mind, there's an understanding of, grant support for operations to continue are important for health centers because they're not getting traditional reimbursement through private plans, much like our other private entities. However, there's a need to optimize all of the payment streams, right? And so optimizing third-party reimbursement, grants, other grants to support the operations so they can expand and grow. And so typically, FQHCs continue to receive continual renewals of a kind of a baseline annual operations grant, much like what we're putting forth with you today. But the expectation is that there's much more other sustainable funding sources that are coming in to be able to bolster that, because you can't just survive on that grant, right? And so that's what we are, Kamau alluded to, Sammy alluded to, that we're very much working in partnership with our FQHC so we can continue to grow and expand these services in Wayne County.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope the feds don't decide to have a change in policy in the next year, 2 years, or 3 years. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much.
I'll move approval of item 10,
all right.
Madam Chair.
Moved by Commissioner Kleen, supported by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposes? Hearing none, motion carried. Next item.
Moving to the addenda, item 17, requesting commission with Detroit Public Safety Foundation to provide community-based programming in Detroit through the Moving Forward Series program.
Thank you all. We're finally going to do your program.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
It is. Excited. Right. Okay, go ahead. Introduce yourselves, please.
Good afternoon. Tucson Knight, Division Director for Prevention and Diversion. Oh, sorry.
It's green on.
All right, there we go. Tucson Knight, Division Director for Prevention and Diversion, JYS.
Patty Kukula, Executive Director, Detroit Public Safety Foundation.
Quincy Smith, Program Manager, Ceasefire Detroit at the Detroit Health Department.
Captain Marcus Thurkill with the Detroit Police Department and the captain at Organized Crime.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Melissa Fernandez, Director of Juvenile and Youth Services.
Mhm.
And Brian Reinhardt, Chief of Staff to Wayne County Executive Warren Evans.
All right. Thank you all.
All
Wanna
right.
kind of explain the program?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, Tucson Knight, Division Director. So we're presenting a program called Moving Forward Series, and it's basically, we're going to be working with high-risk youth in the community. And the goal is to make sure that we provide them with intense mentoring, intense services to see if we can lower the crime. And specifically right now, Detroit, it is funded 75% through the Child Care Fund, and it'll be 25% from our budget.
All right.
I
Any
can,
questions?
I can add a little bit about
Okay.
some of the background.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Captain Thurkell actually has been working with the youth and developed our Brotherhood and Sisterhood program. And really was one of the founding people to put together community violence interruption programs with Quincy Smith. So for 8 years, I've worked with these wonderful gentlemen, and Tucson has been part of some of the CVI projects that we've had in the past. And it's just incredible how actually community violence interruption programs
Yeah.
have blown up throughout the country. It's a CVI, it's a buzzword these days, right? Well, actually, these folks started it 8 years ago here, and it's been very successful. And of course, we all know the wonderful background of Tucson with this Caught Up program that he's been doing forever. And so we're so excited to have this opportunity with you. We also, through the Detroit Public Safety Foundation, have a $300,000 grant from the Child Care Fund that we actually do more mentoring and casework specific. So I'm very, very familiar and have been for the last 5 years with the United Way Child Care Fund and using the system. And so I'm very happy to be the fiduciary and work to contract with the people that will be specifically responsible for direct services so that they have the right qualifications for this. And we look so forward to working with you and expanding this kind of opportunity throughout the city and the county.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. Yes. Thank you so much. Commissioner Killeen?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
I've been a big supporter of all that we've done in the diversion programs and the history since the county took over the youth stuff from the state of Michigan, changed the numbers drastically. My question is, how is this different from some other programs we have? We already have at least one program where they can go before a judge, people that don't have a criminal record, a school counselor, a parent, maybe police, saying, hey, this kid doesn't have a record yet, but they're in real difficulty. So we want to bring them in, provide services, and we have other diversion programs too. So how is this different from any of the other diversion programs we have?
Go ahead, Deputy. Assistant County Exec.
Chief of Staff, yes, ma'am, Brian Reinhardt. Yeah, so the difference, Commissioner, is that, like you indicated, a youth can find themselves in trouble for whatever decision. The prosecutor's office does have the ability to divert that case from court. In many cases, this team would reach those youth that haven't actually made police contact.
But that's what I was pointing out in my comment. We already have a way of diverting youth that are not in the juvenile justice system yet, haven't been charged with anything. It's other people around them, parents, school counselors that say, hey, this kid hasn't been charged with anything, but we're really concerned about him. And then Third Circuit, much like here, the court will say, yeah, we want to put you in that program. And I'm not understanding how this is different than the programs we already have. that seem to do the same thing. That's seemingly,
Sure.
but I can be educated.
Melissa Fernandez, Director of Juvenile and Youth Services, and I can speak a little bit about that. You're referring to the prevention programs that we have in our youth assistance programs. And essentially this will be very similar to youth assistance program, but it's driven by the context specifically with DPD and the high-risk kids. You know, we're watching that in the community. We know that since May, we've had over 400 kids charged with a felony, and about 75% of those were Detroit-based kids. And so it will be driven by DPD in collaboration with some of the work that Ceasefire is doing. The model is very different than the YAP programming, and we can hear a little bit about what that looks like.
So do we think we're going to be able to reach more youth as a result of this?
Well, I think the most important piece about this is the youth that we're going to reach. And these are youth that the police, and that's why the partnership with the police department is very important, because, and I'll let them explain how we're going to identify youth, like the most high-risk youth in the community. So I don't know if you'll get that from a school, because some of these kids, most of the time, are not even in school. So we're talking about kids who are always around when things are happening. They might not get picked up, but they're always in the car, they're always around, and we know that they have the potential to create these type of violent incidents. And I'll let Captain Thurkill explain.
So the Detroit Police Department, our commitment in this will be to help identify those at-risk youth. We'll be using our systems and our interactions on a daily basis that will be led by our gang intelligence unit to assist in identifying these youth. And once these youth are identified, we'll be transitioning them over to the moving forward portion of it. But this program is a little different than the other programs, just based on the partnership that we'll have with the county.
Well, if we can reach more youth as a result, Mr. Knight, the Rossini event of a couple of nights, it just happened right around the corner from both you and I.
Yes.
And, but we've all known the work that you've done and my background. A lot of youth out there
Absolutely.
walking around the streets.
Yeah.
And I keep saying the 15, 16-year-old kids that get tossed out of the house by mom are walking the streets with other 15, 16-year-olds. They had that happen at their house too. And I'm like, fellas, don't get any ideas.
Right.
Walk around, but don't get any ideas, right? And so to have some help available for more kids, I'm all in favor of. Madam Chair, I do have another question. We heard from Commission Counsel on this, that the subcontractors haven't been identified, and that's not how we do our procurement ordinance, that the subcontractors come here as part of a thing like we're doing here. So can I hear something about that on the subcontractors and why we should violate our procurement ordinance today and approve this without subcontractors?
Yeah, so one of the things as it relates to this contract is our first time, doing it. So we have not identified, we're gonna have youth advocates, so they haven't been hired yet. So there's no way to kind of identify them at this time. What we have promised to do, I know Aaron Walter spoke with someone in the commission department, and what we promised to do is submit a quarterly report of any subcontractors that we do bring on as it relates to this project.
Well, you mentioned 4 individuals.
No, we said we have individuals that we're gonna hire, then
Right.
we have, so.
And those aren't subcontractors per se. Those are county jobs.
No, they're not county jobs. So they'll be subcontracted out on this project. So they're not.
These 4 individuals you're talking about will be the subcontractors.
So there'll be like a professional service contract that they'll have. The individuals that'll work on the project, but they won't be county employees.
If I may, sir.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Ma'am.
my commissioner, actually.
Ma'am.
Actually, that's one of the functions that the Detroit Public Safety Foundation serves, as hiring professional service contractors, so that we run them through our application service and make sure that they have the degrees if they're going to be doing the case management. So they are not subcontractor organizations at all. I am the organization and the only one that will have the responsibility as a corporation to be audited, to have all of the licenses and the requirements that we've gone through the contract with, that the county has asked of the Detroit Public Safety Foundation. So we are already been verified and vetted through your organization through all of your entities to say that we meet those criteria. But my role will be to work very closely with these gentlemen we'll be identifying who is responsible for case management or the program director, but they will not be subcontractors. They will actually be professional service contractors through the Detroit Public Safety Foundation.
So the foundation and the county have agreed on, I don't want to necessarily say job descriptions, but have agreed on what these subcontractors, how they need to perform.
The professional service
Yeah.
contractors are independent contractors, and they do have goals and objectives that they will be required to meet, work product that they will be required to
Those been
submit.
worked out?
Yes, we have,
What
I
the
mean,
goals are and what they need to meet?
well, we have job descriptions for each position.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of like have those conversations, but we know what the outcomes are for the entire project. So we're going to hold them accountable for that.
Have you shared any of that with commission staff?
Yes, they have the entire project. It has all the outcomes. It has
Okay,
what each position does and the reason why we need them.
okay, because there's some information that doesn't rise up to me until,
Okay.
and I am concerned about that too. This has come up here before. I'm not wild about approving contracts and saying, well, we'll tell you who the subcontractors are later, right? Because I don't want any issues here,
For sure.
right? That if for whatever reason something doesn't work out or then we have to backtrack and so I'm not wild about that, right? But that's my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate this initiative because when I became a commissioner 6 years ago, I was like, okay, what are we doing proactively rather than reactive all the time? So I really appreciate this program. However, it's missing some pieces, some major pieces, and Commissioner Killeen just alluded to some of those. And I think if I can get some more answers around who, what, how, you talked about your outcomes. I'm not really sure what that is. How many youth will you reach, and how you reach them is important too, because in the community I live in, you could reach them through harassment in some way. I don't know what the techniques you're going to use to get these youth involved. We really do need something like this to reach out to youth that just have nothing else better to do. Are you going to look at maybe employing some of the youth that are somewhat problem children and just need a little help in moving them in the right direction? Maybe they can move some of their problem friends in the right direction. So I just need some more substantive
Absolutely.
answers. And the other question is that I had was I think I covered those. Yeah.
Okay.
So
let me start with each youth that attends the program, they'll have it'll be incentive based. So that's one of the main things is that in order to be able to change a youth's life, they have to be around and they have to want to come. And so we're going to provide incentives for youth that come on a consistent basis. So that'll be kind of like their pay and they can bring their friends. It's up to them on that. But we're going to identify a certain youth that is a high risk youth. I think that's the most important piece here. It's like these individuals are high risk. And I'll let Quincy share. We're basically going to use a model that's been used, but it's not been used for juveniles. Right. And that's how, so I'll let him share more about that. And then I'll talk to you about the outcomes and things like that.
So thank you to Madam Chair and the rest of the
certainly.
commissioners.
Go ahead,
Appreciate you all for the opportunity. So Ceasefire uses a focused deterrence model. And what that means is there's a specific group who is driving the violence, right? How do you get in front of those individuals? So with our partnership with law enforcement on the adult side of Ceasefire, they identify these individuals. We have credible messengers in this work we call LTOs, which is licensed to operate. These are the individuals who have street credibility, that can connect, that can relate, that may have lived that life of gang activity, but have gone through a major transition and are out here doing positive work. Those would kind of be like the youth advocates. On the Ceasefire side, that's an outreach worker, okay? They provide the day-to-day engagement. This is intense interaction, intense mentorship, but not just that. We look at violence as a public health issue. So when we start digging back and pulling back some of the layers, we find out, oh, that's the reason why that young man is involved in this kind of activity. He's just trying to feed his family, right? Mom is at work and, he's trying to, make ends meet to support his little brother and sister. So if we can provide some resources and some tangible support for these families, then maybe we can start to see a major decrease. Right now, our young people is driving the violence. It's our young people, it's our youth. So if we can get in front of those young people and provide those support, provide those resources, then I really feel like we can make a major impact. But it's the focus deterrence model that we're using.
And if I can add to that too, the commitment from the Department of Juvenile and Youth Services is really, as Chair Commissioner Baker McCormick, indicated, is really putting a focus on prevention and the diversion piece, and identifying what happens on that front end. We've placed a lot of focus on institutionalization, right, and incarceration, and so you will see that from us a lot more coming to this honorable body, is how do we focus in the programming that we're doing to focus on our community programming, on working with community-based organizations, because the healing to this is in our community and with our community. And so we're excited to bring to you coming up soon more of these programs that are community-based.
And I was going to just add a little more. So overall, we want to see what does it look like when we do certain things with you. So if we're an organization that can provide the resources for them, making sure that they have the necessary things that they need. If they show up to our community hub, I don't know if you all read about that. We're going to have a community hub that only they can go to. So it's going to have a basketball. It's going to have different services that they're going to receive there. So if we're doing this intense mentoring with individuals that we know are driving the crime, what does that look like? Does that lower crime? We want to be able to share that story and be a model, really, not only for the city, the county, but, for the state of Michigan and possibly the United States.
And so what's the target number that you think you can reach, and at how long is the program, you think?
So each is going to go like by quarters. So the goal is to bring together a group of young people, right? So it's to get about 20 to 30 of them. That means by intensive, like not harassment, but just contacting their parents, like, hey, we really know that your child should probably be here. We'll provide transportation. We'll have a meeting. We'll tell them about what we're doing and offer resources. We'll tell them, hey, we're going to have all these different programs for you. You want a job, you want mentoring, we'll be here for you. And so that'll be about 20 to 30 young people each quarter. So the goal is to work about 150 youth per year. And they're like, right now it's a pilot. So we're going to try to figure out all the kinks, all the different things that can go wrong, go right. And then we'll want to expand it as time go by.
And are you starting at one area of town, or are you kind of
Well, right now we're just going to identify youth that are high risk. So again, because like as you stated, we want to be able to get youth there and make sure we're providing services. So we know some are not going to show up at first, but if we see that, I think if others see hey, my friends are part of this program, like you said, and then the next round they'll probably want to come, and so nobody will be turned away. At no point, they think they need to be a part of it, we'll make sure that we have them a part.
Also, I just want to add one thing in there. From our standpoint, what we'll be focusing on is those neighborhoods that are experiencing high volume of crime at that particular time. So we may target one geographic area and try to refer as many of those at-risk youth in that area to the program. And overall, these are the youth that will require additional time and additional resources. So us having an individual approach to each youth, because each youth may have a different, they may require a little something different than the next youth. So us having a focused approach will definitely, I think, help out from our standpoint.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Kleen?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple other questions. And I think I just heard the officer say, we're going to be in the 9th precinct doing this.
Around the corner from you.
No, he said the 8th precinct.
No, no, because I've tracked this and I haven't seen a report from the JDF in a long time. But when they report by zip code 48205,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 48205 has this,
Yeah.
every other has that. Anyway, that's just an east side thing. So we heard from the gentleman from Ceasefires, and I'm going back on this subcontractor thing. I'm in favor of this kind of, right? But I'm also in favor that we do it under the rules. Well, I guess what I want to ask is, if we approve this today, I guess I would like to see when subcontractors are hired, that we come back to this table, you can see the real interest in the commission for doing these kinds of things, right? And so when we have the subcontractors hired, that you come back before us and say, these are the subcontractors, we go through it a little bit more, in more detail. So I would like to see that happen, Madam Chair. When the subcontractors are hired, we have an agenda item here to discuss the program and who is all involved. And then going forward, it's 30 youth a quarter.
Yep.
So to have data on those youth,
Absolutely.
and I don't know what your plan is for reporting. Well, I'll say to the commission, but it's really to the citizens of Wayne County, what kind of success we are having with this program.
Absolutely. So
Do we have like a planned reporting? Is this a quarterly thing? We have planned anything?
So the goal is to present out every quarter, come up with a report. So of course we gotta,
Yeah.
so the first quarter is gonna be building a team, you know, looking to see who can have the best rates for different things that we're gonna offer,
Yeah.
and then come back. So we'll present all of that to you all within the first quarter. And then, you know, if you're looking for like getting some results on the youth, that'll probably have to come 2 quarters in
Right,
because.
yeah, exactly.
But we'll do that.
But that's long been we do have a lot of other diversion programs. And I think with this program, along with others, that we report out to the public on a somewhat
What's happening?
regular basis, right? How many youth are involved in all these programs, right? We've got a lot of good outcomes going in a lot of other programs. But again, just to make people aware, to make commissioners more aware, to make the public more aware that this is what we're doing out there and this is the success we're having. Because there's a lot of strange things that get out in the public about the youth around the city.
Yeah, exactly.
And very few are what people like to refer to as thug life. They're vanishingly small. You know, we're dealing with young people that are not fully formed yet,
Right.
that have strong peer pressure, and just getting by in their neighborhoods every day.
Yep.
And soft and gushy on the east side, but fronting people off on the outside.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of strange ideas out there about the youth in our town.
Sure.
And I want to be able to report and have public dialogue on the successes of what we're doing. So I'm willing to support this, but I really need you to come back and have another conversation when we have the subs hired. This is everybody, so we all know, and have a
Absolutely.
conversation a little bit more in depth about the program.
And
And what's going-
if I can add, the department and our quality managers, we do have metrics and we'll report out quarterly on where those metrics are and how we're doing with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify, transportation is it provided
It will be provided.
for the youth? Okay,
Yep. So
thank
we
you.
provided to the, yep.
The
you got it.
participant, okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Commissioner- Just a moment. Commissioner
Thank you.
Anderson.
Thank you. I've noticed a couple things that I had questions about, and one of them is the program coordinator. Who would that be, the program coordinator?
Yeah, we plan to interview individuals to see who would be the best person, but I would think like a retired principal, someone that kind of fits that category, because they'll be the ones who's managing all the cases, making sure everything's going inside jazz, making sure that we're keeping up with all the different outcomes for the youth.
I was a little taken back by what it appears to be, what the salary was going to be for that position. Is that $270,000?
No, it's
It
so
says
it's
for the
it's-
program.
It's for the entire program. Yeah, 3
Program
years.
coordinator, it
Yeah.
does. It doesn't say the whole program. It says program coordinator.
Yeah, no, so it's they put the entire amount for the entire contract. The contract is to go 3 years.
Okay.
So I believe the amount is around like 90,000. Yeah, per
Okay.
year.
Yeah, 90,000 per year over 3 years.
Okay. It was a shocker when I saw it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then the maximum age of the kids would be 17, but it could serve, it's going to serve 7 up to 17. I thought I saw that in the notes.
Well, we put that, that's basically, that fits the child care fund description. But majority of the youth that we're talking about are the high-risk youth. They're teenagers, 14 to 17, I'm thinking will be the most.
Right.
And yeah, so that'll be the most of them.
Okay. And it's available for all of Wayne County, or right now just the city of Detroit?
Right now, just the city of Detroit, so we can kind of work out the kinks, kind of like act as a pilot, but we put one to come back very soon, if we want to expand it to different.
I know we have problems in other areas too.
Absolutely.
So I've got to advocate for them as well.
For sure.
And so I hope we'll be at a point sometime in the future that we'll be able to expand it beyond just the city of Detroit. But I think the need is probably more critical right now to get it up off the ground and in an area that needs it even maybe the most. I'd like to see at some point in a short time a detailed budget with full disclosure of resources and expenditures.
Sure.
Because I think this is the first time the county's been asked to put money into this program. It's a relatively new program, or a brand new program, it sounds like. And your funders up to this point, I mean, for the Public Safety Foundation, it looked as though there have been quite a few sponsors in the past. At least some of the website indicated that there were a lot of different major companies in that.
Yes.
So is that accurate?
Yes, sir. We actually have numerous corporate support, but we also have DOJ support. I have a $743,000 Stop School Violence grant. I've just filed for 3 more grants that will, if I'm awarded them through the DOJ, it will come to 2.5 million. And that's the other beauty, because what I like to do is make sure that programs that are here, I can always offer free services from other programs that I have going on in the area. And so that's another thing. And this program, remarkably, is the first program that I've seen anywhere that is going to provide money to reimburse for food as well as the incentives. That is unheard of. And that's why the success of this program, I think, will be very good. That's amazing. When you're able to provide food when you're coming after school and the kids are hungry and you talk, food is a great, gathering place to really open up. And so, I mean, sounds simple enough, but those 2 things I think is going to provide your program more success in attendance. And then once the kids start coming and understand that you're there to show them how to gain other resources, I think that will be very good.
Another thing, I hope we won't be caught off guard by salaries that are going out which are way beyond what people would have the expectations they would be, because that's sometimes in the city and in the county, it comes bubbling up later. You don't get the whole story and the news story, certainly, but we don't want to, I personally don't want to see somebody making $200,000 on a program that should be because this officer here, I know he's not in it just for the money. I know, you care about, I believe every one of you sitting around the table care about the youth and which direction they're going in. And I certainly appreciate that. But I did notice too, there were a couple of major banquets that are put on by the foundation. And I'm just wondering how they pay for those.
Oh, our two events are Women in Blue and the other is Above and Beyond, and I pay for them. They are great recognition to the officers. We do make a profit from them typically, but I do have major corporations that do support, Rock Financial, Marathon Petroleum. Gosh, you can just go down the list. I can't even think,
I saw a lot of
Huntington Bank.
logos on the page.
Yep,
so-
I do. It's
So-
really fortunate that we have such support for our officers and the work that they do because it's so dangerous, as you all know. But I do want to tell you what a star you have with this gentleman.
Yeah.
For the last 8 years, the United Way Foundation has been trying to lower the age for reimbursement from 13 to the 7. He got into your system and within a matter of 6 weeks, he was able to have that approval at the 7-year-old system to work with the kids. Because Chief White's been saying, we need to get, we got to get to the 10-year-olds, we got to get to the 9-year-olds, we got to get to the 18-year-olds. Well, you brought Tucson aboard in Wayne County and within 6 weeks, he excuse me, and I love you, Chief Rizard. He jump-stepped the state of Michigan. He jump-stepped the child care fund and everybody. And somehow, we didn't ask him how, but he was able to lower the ability to serve children from 7 years of age up. We were frozen for years at 13.
Yeah.
And he did it. So we are grateful to you,
Great.
Tucson.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Tucson.
That's all I have. And I hope the program is a huge success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, there's.
Okay. Is Felicia still on? Okay. Go ahead.
Through the chair to this honorable body, I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Killeen with regards to subcontractors. As Commissioner stated, the procurement ordinance requires that subcontractors be identified along with their names, amount, and what they'll be providing at the time contracts are submitted to the commission. In this instance, I know it's been stated that there are certain individuals that will be hired as advocates, but there are also companies that will be hired. So from the information we've received, for example, they'll be retaining a company to provide transportation. They'll be retaining potentially a company to provide food. And so we did have this conversation with the administration, just trying to understand why this contract was uniquely different and the information couldn't be provided. And while we may understand that, perhaps certain individuals cannot be identified, with regards to those companies, it wasn't necessarily clear. So we wanted to bring it to your attention just because, again, it's not in full compliance with the ordinance. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Along that line,
Felicia? Yes.
to that point, if I could, I would assume that, and maybe I better ask and not assume anything, but the bid requirements will be, whoops. Where's she at? She's not here.
She's on-
She's on the phone. I thought she was,
Yes.
so used to her being behind me.
Council that place.
Commission
Right,
counsel,
Commission Council.
that she would be able to answer whether or not the requirements of going out for bid on such contracts, subcontracts. Is that going to be part of this agreement?
Well, like all subcontractors, they don't go through our bid process. That's usually something that the vendor determines. And we take that into consideration as a county when you're selecting a vendor. And so that's why it should be provided up front, because you're not only selecting the bank contractor, you're also taking into consideration the subs that they'll be using. In this instance, this was a comparable source, so there was no bid per se, like an RFP. And for whatever reasons, the subcontractors haven't been identified, but there won't be a bid process, but there never is with a subcontractor. That's always at the discretion of the primary contractor.
I'd like to ask what your feeling is about that.
Well, so for me, it's a new contract and we didn't want to start negotiating with different different companies and we didn't have an approval. So that's how it kind of got held up on our end because I didn't want to start going out there and promising people we have a contract for you and it wasn't approved yet. So this is a new contract, new things we promised to make sure we submitted, you know, and if you all have a particular process that you would prefer we go through to select them, we don't have an issue with that, but we wanted to make sure that it got approved first and then we'll go out and negotiate those different contractors. We didn't want to do it.
Okay, thank you.
I just think, you know,
Alicia.
that's been the practice for this body and it is using tax dollars indirectly. And that's important to me too.
Yes.
Thank you.
I can add a little bit to that. In some of these programs that we use, you know, the transportation, it may be Lyft or an Uber type thing or some other kind of service. So it may not be like one contract, maybe just paying for Lyft rides. People are used to that. That's, you know, and you're not going to negotiate with Lyft. It is what it is pretty much. And then the other part of that is the food. Typically, a lot of times there's a lot of changes every week. You know, the kids, it might just be Chick-fil-A, bring them in, or it might be, you know, soul food one week, or it may be whatever. So we, you know, typically the program is not necessarily hiring a vendor for food. It's thinking about, you know, okay, who are we servicing today? What do we want to do to maybe entice them to really have good food? So a lot of times we're just paying local businesses for, you know, 20, 30 kids. You just go pick up the food, right? So it may not have a contract with a food service person or a company for transportation. It may be more generalized and localized.
Thank you. Commissioner Killeen.
Yeah, hopefully for the last time, and I do have a motion, Madam Chair, but just a couple of things.
Okay.
And this is, and Commissioner Anderson, this is kind of what I was asking about, that when these do come on board, because our contract is with the foundation.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to do the hiring.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to give the contracts out, right? Because we've hired you. So I think that's part of the larger report. This is really what it looks like now. And Ms. Kukula, I think you very much underestimate the gourmet lunches that they provide over at Denby for the students. Maybe they won't be hungry when they, but anyway, the child care fund, I'm used to 50-50 splits with the state.
Yes.
I see this is, so two things about that. I see this is 75-25.
Yes.
And with the raise the age legislation recently going through Lansing, that it's 17, the state and the child care fund takes over 100% of the cost. So I think that's what it says in my, but beyond 17, will these kids be able to stay in programs in the county if it's not this one? So two things, the 75-25 split, that's new to me. And once they age out at 17, can the county still have a place in other programs for them?
So I'll respond in a few different ways. So the 75 is new. That is in line with the childcare reform that's happening in this state. And so all prevention and diversion programs are now reimbursed at 75%.
Is that going to apply to all of our other programs as well?
That absolutely will,
Ooh.
correct.
I want to see, I want to see all the pluses and minuses for that. And how much less we're going to be spending out of our general fund
Yes.
down the road.
And, but I also want to add for raise the age, that also changed. And it's no longer reimbursed at 100%. It's 50-50 as.
Oh, it's no longer.
Correct. Now it's back to 50-50.
And are we going to be able to keep these kids in other programs or?
So past the age.
You know, it's like with, you know, when you age out of foster care.
Correct.
Hey, these poor young adults are just out there trying to figure it out on their own. And I don't want to give 2-3 years of a good program and then say, hey, see you later. Best of luck. Have a good time. So what's our ability to retain them in other programs?
Sure. So in other programming, it would be in line with childcare funding or raise the age. At raise the age, we can keep them in. Some of the other projects we're working on address exactly that. We will bring that forth to the committee here soon. However, the programming options are limited once they no longer are eligible.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I'd like to
Good,
move
thank
approval
you.
of item 17.
It's been moved by Commissioner Killeen, supported by Commissioner McCormick. All in favor? Any opposes? Hearing none, and I vote yes. Thank you all
Thank-
so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
good to have you all here, but I know what Patty's been doing.
Nice to be back.
Yes.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, next item.
F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I don't know of any. Next item.
G, public comments.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Anyone right here in the audience right now? Anyone wishing to speak? There's no one wishing to speak. Is there anyone online?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, then. No hands on. Next item.
Adjournment.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor? Aye. Okay.